Om, Om, Om. As my goal is to primarily introduce this text to people who do not have access to it, especially I wanted to rejoice, teach myself in reviewing this text so that many people who are not knowledgeable about this text, they may have a chance to get familiar with what it is and may pursue their studies. So I consider this only as a service to great teachers because of whom I had a chance to read this text, and this is purely my expression of my gratitude to those teachers and this BDK Society, BDK America, which made this text available to us. So I'm not really going to read every sentence, but those sentences which I found to be important so that somebody may be introduced to the text and later on they can pursue. But if I can be of any service, some of you may post any questions, send a message to me, then I will be glad to clarify further based on my limited understanding, which I value greatly. Now here on page number 12 it says, will the Buddha teach us the true dharma that he obtained while he sat on the terrace enlightenment, that is Bodhimanda. So here Maitreya is asking Manjushri, see now the situation is like this. Now the Shakyamuni or Siddhartha Gautama sitting under the Bodhi tree or the Ficus religiosa tree. Now he has illuminated whatever knowledge that he got under the Ficus religiosa tree, which they call as a Bodhimanda, Bodhimanda or Mandapa, you can say, okay, Bodhimandala or Bodhimandapa, basically the tree, Bodhi tree. Whatever knowledge that he got sitting under the tree, is he going to teach us that now? That is what is happening. This assembly was taking place in the Gridhrakuta or the hillock of the Gridhra means eagle. So when this assembly has taken place in the Rajagriha is currently Patna in India, in that area where Buddha was in his assembly, and he went into some transcendental meditation, and there was a bright illumination in the hearts of people. And that light or illumination sparked illumination in the worlds around. So it is described. And then many bodhisattvas and the beings of different worlds were visible. So looking at this very mysterious and mystical phenomena experience, everybody was stunned and in awe. And this question was posed by Maitreya to Manjushri. See, now what is Buddha going to do? He has shown this light of lights, and after that what next? Since you have seen many other Buddhas or Bodhisattvas do this, tell us what happens now. And as part of this conversation, he's saying, Maitreya is saying, will the Buddha teach us the true dharma that he obtained while he sat on the terrace of enlightenment? So what I infer from this sentence is, please note that what is being revealed is the knowledge that the Buddha got on the day of his enlightenment. So it is hinting to that. So we should have some reverence and expectation that what is being taught by the Buddha is that transcendental knowledge and wisdom which made him the Buddha from Siddhartha Gautama. So a real direct knowledge. That is what is the importance of this sentence. Then Manjushri answers Maitreya, and I am taking some sentences from that because these are very important concepts here. O sons of a virtuous family, in the past, more than innumerable unthinkable, incalculable kalpas ago, there was a Buddha called Chandra Surya Pradipa. Chandra Surya Pradipa. A Tathagata, Arahat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of the devas and humans, Buddha Bhagavat. This Chandra Surya Pradipa taught the true dharma that was good in the beginning, good in the end, middle, and good in the end. It was profound in meaning, elegant in speech, and endowed with the character of the pure path of discipline and integrity. So these words are very important because they repeat in the text several places so that we know what is the nature or the quality of the knowledge that the Buddha acquires. So if we say somebody that they are enlightened, if their knowledge cannot be matched up with these characteristics mentioned here, we should say what one has obtained is inferior to the knowledge of the Buddha. That's how I would interpret it. So let's look at this one more time. What he is doing is here, Manjusri is referring to another anecdote eons ago, several kalpas ago, a kalpa being a very large duration, some time ago, in which he was present, at which time he was present, Manjusri was present, and that time one Buddha, similar to our current Shakyamuni Buddha, there was a Buddha called Chandra Surya Pradipa. So he is referring to that circumstances in which how Chandra Surya Pradipa behaved in a similar circumstance. And then finally concludes that because today we see Shakyamuni Buddha in the same situation, I expect him to be teaching dharma. So he concludes. So he presents the argument. So to introduce Chandra Surya Prabha, he says, a Tathagata. A Tathagata is nothing but an avatara. Tathagata means they translate it here as thus come. Means he has come thus. Sometimes we say thus gone, Tatha Agata or Tatha Gata. Either way, thus come or thus gone. So basically it means like avatara, Tathagata. So this also means it's just not that Gautama Buddha was an ignorant man, he got enlightenment. They don't want to say that. They say that the same one self of all came as the Buddha, or Shakyamuni Buddha, and he came to know himself as the one self of all. And rather it would say that he knew that he himself was the one self of all the time. That is the meaning of Tathagata. So because he knows that he came. He knows that he took an avatara. He is otherwise an unembodied dharmadhatu, or the one self of all, or Brahman. So this is what the word Tathagata refers to. So after the resolution of the body, it's anyway the same as the self. There's really no coming and going. Tathagata, like that. Arahat means fully liberated. Arahat, completely enlightened. So do not say, for example, if somebody has got one glimpse one day and that second has come and gone, you cannot say he is completely enlightened. That is what the text tries to say. Completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct. So what would happen is, whatever the Buddha is moving about, it is not a display of ignorance. It is a display of knowledge alone. Means every movement is happening in knowledge. It is not that some moments he didn't have the knowledge of the reality, he is disconnected from it. Such is not the case. He is always conducting, being one with the self. That's what it means by perfect in knowledge and conduct. Perfect in knowledge and conduct. So the conduct is not an ignorant conduct. That's what it means to say. Well departed means he has left home from the limitations of binding himself. That's what the word well departed refers to. Knower of the world. So you cannot become an all-knowing without knowing the nature of the world. A glimpse once in a blue moon will not give that. So one should be knowing the phenomena and their nature completely. Knower of the world, unsurpassed, means there is nobody else who knows better than him. Like that. Unsurpassed, tamer of humans, means he knows everything about the humans and human behavior. That is what is meant by tamer of humans. Tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans. He is also a teacher. He is also the guru of the devas and humans. It's just not for one. So that's one. And Buddha Bhagavat. We say in the Hindu Dharma also Bhagavan. Means he has got 6 different qualities. Ishwaratva, Sarvagnatva, etc. Sarvashaktiman. Who knows the coming and going of the jivas. So there are 6 qualities, bhaga as we call, shanna iti bhaga iti uchyate. Like that, there are 6 qualities. Vairagya means supremacy in vairagya. So like Brahman or the self is not attached to anything. It is never attached. That is why it is a personification or the of detachment. So vairagya. Ishwaratva is there and vairagya is also sampurna. Sampurnam. So everything should be in full mode. Only then it is a Bhagavan. So here it says Buddha Bhagavat. He taught the true dharma that was good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. So whatever was taught, and if you put into practice, it is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and the fruit is also, the end is also equally good. It is not that while drinking the medicine it is very bitter and probably it cures the disease after 2 months. So the end is good, but while taking the medicine for those 2 months you have to suffer. This dharma is not like that. Bhagavan Sri Krishna also says the same thing. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even if you practice a little bit of this dharma, swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even if you only practice a little bit of this dharma, you will cross from the great fear. Mahato bhayat. From the great fear of death and samsara. So, of course, there it is in the context of karma yoga. Means if you start doing karma as a yoga, that will lead you to knowledge and ultimately you will get rid of this samsara. So it says you start even from the middle and also that little that you do will never go waste. Because it will only build upon it, and he answers Arjuna also that that particular little bit never goes waste. You will have a better life, etc., etc. In the Gita he explains. So he is also saying being said here, this dharma is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. It was profound in meaning, elegant in speech, and endowed with character of the pure path of discipline and integrity. Pure path of discipline and integrity. So these are the emphasis, characteristics that are being emphasized about the nature of teaching that Chandra, Surya, Pradeepa did. Profound in meaning. It's not a shallow thing. It has got depth in it. Profound in meaning, elegant in speech, well explained. There is no confusion. It's crystal clear how it progresses. And endowed with character of pure path of discipline and integrity. Means it is not disconnected. There is no impurity in it. And it is well connected with the discipline and integrity. So these are the characteristics of that Buddha Chandra Surya Pradeepa's teaching. Continuing, to those seeking for the Shravaka vehicle, he taught the Dharma with respect to the 4 noble truths. These sentences are very helpful and important for a deeper understanding. To those seeking for the Shravaka vehicle, he taught the Dharma with respect to the 4 noble truths, causing them to overcome birth, old age, illness, and death, and to attain nirvana. So the seekers who have no bigger goal than overcoming the suffering of this current existence, for them he taught the path of the 4 noble truths. We'll see what they are, how to understand them. But he taught the 4 noble truths to the people who wanted a Shravaka vehicle. Means those who wanted the first level immediate relief. Shravaka vehicle is primarily an immediate relief from the pain of this birth, to overcome, causing them to overcome birth, old age, illness and death, and to obtain nirvana. So if somebody has that kind of a goal, this vehicle, Shravaka vehicle of Four Noble Truths, is the medicine for them. That was what taught to them by Chandrasurya Pradipa. He taught the Dharma with respect to dependent origination to the Pratyeka Buddhas. So the Pratyeka Buddhas, as we said earlier, self-driven. Pratyeka Buddha is a self-driven man. Pratyeka Buddhas who just get some information from the Buddha and try to realize it on their own in their lives. Those are Pratyeka Buddhas. Means those recluses who keep themselves away from the society and say that, oh, we see that there is certain thing possible. We saw in the life of the Buddha, we want to actualize it in our own lives directly. For them, what is being taught? The principle. That is what is being referred to as dependent origination. We'll see what is dependent origination. Okay, so that is the principle one needs to understand, which then he can actualize in one's life. The dependent origination was taught to those origination to the Pratyeka Buddhas. And to the Bodhisattvas, he taught the Dharma with respect to the six perfections or paramitas. Six perfections or paramitas to the Bodhisattvas, causing them to attain the highest complete enlightenment and perfect in all knowledge, sarvagnata. Sarvagnata. So here, with respect to the Bodhisattvas alone, complete knowledge is being referred to, complete enlightenment. So he taught to the Bodhisattvas, he taught the Dharma with respect to the six perfections, paramitas. So there are six qualifications that one must have in full measure to be able to gain this complete enlightenment equivalent to the Buddha himself. One who becomes the self of all, not a glimpse of the self, and gains peace while living here because he is now hanging to a true principle in his current life. No, he has crossed even that and become one with the self of all. He has no individual identity whatsoever. To gain to that, the teaching says that one should excel in these six qualities. We will see them sometime as it comes, being taught by the Buddha, like dana or charity, fullness in that. One should have clarity of the views. One should have good jhana, means meditation absorption. She should have certain liberations. So there are six different paramitas, as they are called, perfections. One should be perfect in those, causing them to attain highest complete enlightenment and perfect all knowledge, or sarvagnata. So meaning that if somebody who is a Shravaka vehicle follower or a Pratyeka Buddha vehicle follower, they do not have sarvagnata, all knowingness. Like we said earlier, that one who knows the nature of coming and going of jivas or individuals. Such knowledge does not exist to a Shravaka vehicle follower or to the Pratyeka Buddha vehicle follower. They have certain amount of knowledge which makes them feel free and not being intimidated by the limitations of this current life. And they may not come back to the cyclic birth and death cycle. To that extent they are free. So here he is referring to three different vehicles, so to say. How they are taught to three different people who are qualified differently. Then there was another Buddha named Chandrasurya Pradipa. Chandrasurya Pradipa. And after him, another Buddha also named Chandrasurya Pradipa. And so on. This way, 20,000 Buddhas all had the same name, Chandrasurya Pradipa. they also had the same family name, Bharadwaja. Bharadwaja. So I underline this sentence for a very important reason. So just like we have in the Hindu tradition the idea of Janaka, they say Janaka. So Janaka is not really a one person. So Janaka's son is a Janaka, that Janaka's son is a Janaka, something like a king, you can say. Because he is the father to the residents of that kingdom, he is referred to as a Janaka by the people of that country, by that area. So Janaka's name is actually a generic name, not as a Rudhi name or a what do you call proper name. So it is a generic name. Similarly here Chandra Surya Pradipa, after that another Buddha came who is also Chandra Surya Pradipa 2, then Chandra Surya Pradipa 3. Like that about 20,000 Buddhas came one after another and each one was referred to by the same name, Chandra Surya Pradipa. What was interesting to me was that they also had the same family name Bharadwaja, surprisingly. So because we connect this Bharadwaja to the Sapta Rishis in the Hindu tradition. So interestingly, any person born in that family lineage is also called Bharadwaja. Means one who belongs to Bharadwaja, lineage of Bharadwaja is called Bharadwaja. So interestingly here, the Buddha text refers to all these Buddhas as Bharadwajas, meaning they are all descendants of Bharadwaja. So it's a little bit of interesting mix-up. If you see, whatever way the textbooks were written at that time, they all had a common Hindu background, common Indian background. I'm not biased to a religion, but they all had the same background of religio spirituality. So they were all called Bharadwajas. O Maitreya, you should know that these Buddhas, beginning from the first up to the last, all had the same name, Chandra Surya Pradipa, endowed with the 10 epithets. Endowed with the 10 epithets. That's why I was reading them earlier. So each of these Buddha have 10 epithets. Okay, the titles. The dharma that they taught was good in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. So if we want to really call somebody a Buddha, this should be the goal. The Tathagata, Arahat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. So these are the 10 epithets to measure up a real Buddha. That's what interesting word. And I also see one more word here. A couple of sentences down, it says, these 8 princes, means the Chandra Surya Pradipa had 8 sons. So he is referring to that. I'm not going to the story here. I only wanted to point out that these 8 princes were endowed with dignity and power, and each of them ruled over 4 great continents. 4 great continents. So this was also an interesting word I found. Because in the current understanding, we know that the 7 continents that we count today were not really 7 continents in the beginning. I do not recollect the specific geological transformations, but we know that these continental plates change, drift. So they may go far apart and then come near. So in which the continents are formed and continents separate over millions of years. So surprisingly, this text refers to a time when there were only 4 continents. So I just found it interesting and I wanted to mention. Those of you who are knowledgeable may explore that further. So later on he explains that there was one Varaprabha. Where is this sentence? A bodhisattva named Varaprabha was there with his 800 disciples. At that time, the Buddha Chandra Surya Pradipa having emerged from Samadhi, remained sitting for 60 intermediate kalpas and revealed to the Bodhisattva Varaprabha the Mahayana Sutra called Sadharma Pundarika, the white lotus of the marvelous law, hereafter Lotus Sutra, which was the instructions for the Bodhisattvas and the treasured lore of the Buddhas. So what he is trying to refer to is, at that time, Chandrasurya Pradeepa taught one Bodhisattva called Varaprabha, and these two words also repeat very often with every Buddha, saying that this is the treasured lore of the Buddhas. Means those who attained the Buddha knowledge, whatever they taught was this which is revealed and which is being repeated by every Buddha, the same thing, because that's what they understand. Means if one understands this in their own life directly, they are same as the Buddha, to mean that. And the same thing is being revealed in this text called Lotus Sutra or Sadharma Pundarika. And then it also says, it is an instruction to the Bodhisattvas. Means this teaching is really for the really serious sadhakas of advanced knowledge and who want to become Buddhas, Sarvagnas. Not for ordinary people who just want to escape the tormented life situation here, but who want to gain complete enlightenment just like the Buddha. For them, this text is useful. So it says. Then I move to another paragraph on page number 15, which is, O Maitreya, you should know that Bodhisattva Varaprabha at that time was none other than myself. The Bodhisattva Varaprabha was none other than myself, and Bodhisattva Yashaskama was none other than you. Means he is referring to the Bodhisattva Maitreya as being the Yashaskama in one of the previous incarnations, where Yashaskama was a disciple or Bodhisattva in the assembly of the Varaprabha. Varaprabha being this Manjusri. So, O Maitreya, you should know that Bodhisattva Varaprabha at that time was none other than myself. And the Bodhisattva Yashaskama was none other than you. The marvel we see here is exactly the same as the previous one. Means eons and kalpas ago, when we both were present in the assembly of Chandrasurya Pradeepa, the same thing is happening in the assembly of this Shakyamuni Buddha. That is what he is referring to. Therefore, I am certain that today the Tathagata will teach Mahayana Sutra called the Lotus Sutra, the instruction for the Bodhisattvas and the treasure lore of the Buddha, as I said earlier. So these words repeat, emphasizing the importance of this teaching. I would guess I interpret that way. So this being a teaching to the Bodhisattvas means if one considers themselves to be a very serious sadhaka, who have already perfected in the paramitas in their lifetime, who have no real attachment to this, who also have the knowledge of the Four Noble Truths and also the dependent origination, and now they still want perfection. For them, this is the teaching, this teaching being the treasure lore of the Buddhas. Okay. The next page, page number 16. This ray of light illuminated the 18,000 Buddha worlds in the East and revealed the conditions resulting from the karma of each sentient being. So I highlighted these small paragraph with an intention to see how the Buddhist thought goes. The ray of light illuminated the 18,000 Buddha worlds in the East and revealed the conditions resulting from the karma of each sentient being. Means in the 18,000 worlds revealed by the light of this Buddha's look or a gaze that showed the beings of the 18,000 worlds. Because there are conditions in those worlds, the karma of the beings which actually led them to that. state of those worlds, okay, resulting from the karma of each sentient being, reveal the conditions. So because the karma of the individuals took them to those worlds, and the conditions of those worlds were just illumined and revealed by the light thrown by this Buddha. So it's what is being referred to here. So we'll continue again. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.